Timing creates a structured framework for us to arrange beats and notes. Without that framework, we couldn't predict music, and then we wouldn't be able to dance to it. And the human brain is actually wired to recognize patterns and rhythms. And so that's why like a steady beat or a rhythm can be so exciting to us. The pattern recognition allows us to actually sync our movements, like clapping our hands to the music or dancing, with other people. And that can be socially bonding. And then it can also be individually satisfying to just dance to music by yourself as well. So in this video, we're going to break down timing, rhythm, BPM, so that we can understand how all of these work when we're making a piece of music. The numbers up the top of Ableton's timeline represent musical timing. From 1 to 2 represents 1 bar of music. From 2 to 3 represents another bar of music. And our tracks are made up of multiple bars of music. But then we break down smaller than a bar of music as well. We could say half notes. We could look at quarter notes. We could look at eighth notes. So these are smaller and smaller notes that can be used in our music when we're programming pianos, drum kits, or all sorts of other instruments, and we're giving them instructions on what to play. So when we're dealing with electronic music or Western music, generally we're dealing with a time signature called 4/4 musical timing. And the 4/4 musical timing dictates to us the amount of beats that exist within a bar of music. It also dictates to us how long those beats are. So when we're dealing with 4/4 musical timing, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 beats that make up a 1 bar period of time. And each of those beats, this second number, represents the length of the note. And in this case, it's quarter notes. So we have 4 quarter notes that make up 1 bar of music. Rhythm is the pattern of sounds and silences in a piece of music. And we use beats and notes and bars to make rhythms. We use notes sent to drum machines, synthesizers, pianos, whatever, to create these rhythmic patterns that we're talking about. And the rhythmic patterns give a sense of groove to music. It can drive the music forward, and it gives it feeling. And so we're going to make a very simple rhythmic pattern to start with, and then we're going to add some complexity to it. And so I'm going to go ahead and create a MIDI clip that's a bar long. We can zoom in on that a bit closer. And I'm going to put a kick at the beginning of every beat. So 1, 1.2, 1.3, 1.4, which aligns with the grid up above as well as inside the MIDI clip. Now I'll go ahead and press play. And so we'd be very familiar with this type of rhythm. It's called 4 on the floor. So a kick drum on every beat. If we listen to this for a whole minute, we would hear 120 kicks because we're at 120 BPM. We'll talk about BPM a little bit more later on. If I went ahead and just quickly showed you the relationship between the beat length and time, just to give you a little bit of familiarity with that kind of topic. If I select from 1 to 1.2, that is a quarter note or a beat of music. And down below here in this little menu system, when I'm hovering over that, you'll see right at the end it says duration in brackets, and it says 500. And so what that means is it means 0.5 of a second. And if I selected this whole area, it's telling me that it's 2 seconds. Okay, so from the beginning of the bar to the end of the bar, it's 2 seconds of time. And if we break that down, it's half a second, half a second, half a second, half a second, right? If we went and changed the BPM, that relationship would shift and change. We'll talk more about BPM later on. And so we've got our basic rhythm. We can go ahead and add another element to play around that sound. I'll go ahead and select this area of time, go Control-Shift-M to create a MIDI clip. We'll go down an octave to say C2, and I'm going to draw in some notes. And so I know that the kick is occupying the first part of this bar. I want to place a bass note at the beginning of the second eighth note. So if I change this to eighth notes, this would be the first eighth note, and this would be the second eighth note. Now, I want to introduce you to a concept of note placement and note length, okay? So when I'm using something like a synth, the synth could have a varying note length. I could make this longer, and that synth could play for that entire period of time, and then it would stop when the note ends, okay? So that would be the note length. And in this case, as I originally drew it in, it's a 16th note long, okay? And it's playing at the beginning of the second eighth note. First eighth note, second eighth note. So we've got note placement, okay? So it's placed in that position, but the length of it is a 16th note. And so I'll go back to 16th notes on my grid, and I'm going to draw in a couple more notes. I'm going to put 2 there, and again, they're working around the placing of the kick, and I'll put 1 there, and we'll finish with 1 there. And we'll have a listen to how that sounds. Now, I have a bit of an intuition that it'll sound okay, and that's because with experience, you'll kind of figure out what rhythmically could work in these kind of situations. But let's have a listen to that. Now, the only thing that I would consider changing in this kind of situation is I really like the beginning part, but maybe I could try moving both of those a 16th note over and have a listen to that. Cool, I think I like that. And so that is our first rhythm. Let's add some rhythmic complexity to the pattern that we've got here for our drums. We're going to add some more elements. We'll put a clap on the top of every second kick, and we'll have a listen to that. Now, if I actually put it on the clap. And then what we'll do is on every second eighth note, we'll place a hi-hat. We'll go ahead and go 1, 2, 3, 4. And then if we have a listen to that, we're getting the boots and cats. Boots and cats. Cool. Then we'll go ahead and chuck the maracas, and we'll put them on every second 16th note. So we'll do it like that. Okay. And so that sounds pretty robotic, and humans don't play drum rhythms like that. First of all, it's perfectly in time. Second of all, every time an element is hit or played, it's at the exact same intensity or volume. And human drummers, they don't do that. And so what we're going to do is we're going to humanize this, or we're going to add groove to it. And we're going to do it manually by changing the parameters. And so in order to change how intensely the element is played, we use these little sliders down here. These are the velocity sliders in Ableton, okay? So we kind of click the note, and then we can either make it more intense or less intense by moving it up or down. And so for the shaker, I'm going to say I want to actually move it down in intensity. We'll bring that down, and that's sitting at a value of about 54. So 1 being the lowest and 127 being the highest in this case, right? So that's going to be there. And then on the hi-hat, on this first one, actually, I'm going to make it quite intense. I'm going to make it as intense as it can be. And then on the shaker, I'm going to bring it down a little bit. I'm going to set it like that, right? And I'm going to say all of these shakers, these can all have the same intensity as this. So what I can do is I can copy those two, and then I can just duplicate them across, and you'll see that those values have gone across there, okay? And then with this second hi-hat that plays, we'll bring it up a bit more, but we'll just have it a little bit less intense than the first one, and we'll go ahead and we can copy that, and we can paste that across as well. And now we can have a listen to how the rhythm sounds with just a little bit of intensity changed in the rhythm. And then what we can do is we could even move some of the elements if we want. Okay, so we're getting a bit more of an interesting interplay between the elements. Then, okay, we could say that this clap should maybe be just a little bit out of time. We could make that one a little bit behind, and then we could even try putting this one a little bit ahead. And what I'm doing there is I'm holding Alt while I click and drag the note, and that disables the grid and it allows me to move the note wherever I would like, just freely. Okay, so that's a little bit looser there with the clap. And then with this one, maybe we could move that forward a little bit. This one could be moved back a little bit. And it's just trial and error. Listen to it. See what you think sounds good. I'm going to make that one a little bit laxed. And then I'll just leave that one in time. Okay, so that adds a different feel. Go back and listen to it before when it was just all the same. And so this is how we take our rhythms and create a bit more of a human feel with them. Obviously, it's changing the complexity of that rhythm, making it more interesting for our brain to listen to. And you'll hear me repeating this idea over and over again. Our brain wants to have interesting complexities to try and understand. The final thing that we want to talk about is BPM, and we mentioned it a little bit earlier. And so this is the number here, and it tells us how many beats are in a minute of time when we're listening to our music. So if I make this a lower value, like 80, and we have a listen to the loop that we made before, it's slower because we've said that the period of time between 1 and 1.2 is now going to be longer. And so it represents 0.75 of a second. If I made that 60 BPM, it would mean that every beat would be a second long. And now that represents 4 seconds of time. And then I could go and speed everything up and say 145 BPM and have a listen to that. So it's saying the time between every beat should be less. And so that's BPM. It's very easy to understand now that everything else has been explained. It controls the overall speed of the track, and that can control the overall feel of the music, the energy, the excitement. So I hope you enjoyed watching this video, and I'll see you in another one very soon. Thanks very much for watching this video. I really appreciate it. My name's Andrew, and this channel is Collective Intelligence. If you want to support the channel, go ahead and like the video, leave me a comment letting me know what you would like me to teach next, and go ahead and watch this video to learn some more.